Hey, it's Bradifer. We're doing another WoW TCG deck tech today, but we're doing raids again. So we've got a support Totem Shaman, who's Horde, or Red. So his job is to be a support and kind of an ally control class. He's also got a few interrupts to interrupt key abilities, so let's jump into the main combo here, which is Leggings of the Tireless Sentry. It's a 3-cost male Leggings. It's also got 2 armor. Opposing heroes and allies interplay exhausted. At the end of each opponent's turn, exhaust all heroes and allies he controlled. So all of his heroes and allies interplay exhausted, so it shuts off ferocity. And then at the end of his turn, exhausts all his heroes and allies anyways. Works really well with Wavestorm Totem. It's a 2-cost equipment, 2-cost ongoing ability. When an opposing ability, ally, or equipment readies, put it into its owner's hand. So this will keep your opponent putting all of his permanents back into his hand, basically all of his equipments and ongoings if he has any. Any allies that he casts will end up going back to his hand. And then most raids are filled with tokens, and whenever a token gets bounced off the board, quote, into your hand, you can't put a token in your hand, it just dies. So this is a 2-card combo that will just basically completely kill all of your opponent's allies for the rest of the game. Squall Totem also helps enable this. Let's say you don't have this, but you do have a Wavestorm. Squall Totem is just a 1-cost instant. It's technically both an ability and an ally since it's a totem, but when it enters play, exhaust all opposing heroes and allies. When opposing hero or ally attacks or protects, you may exhaust a second one. So basically, it comes into play and it taps all your opponent's stuff. It also has this ongoing part on the bottom, which sometimes becomes relevant, but its main job is to tap their stuff so you can bounce their board with Wavestorm Totem. So already solid, cheap, and you could put some more of these tireless Leggings of the Tireless Sentry in play if you wanted to. I just found that it was getting a little stale, drawing them too often. Kind of like to do some other things. Some other support cards. Let's start at the front. We got Blackout Truncheon. Blackout Truncheon basically stuns a guy, right? Knocks him out. It's an instant weapon. When it enters play, exhaust target hero or ally, and it can't ready during its controller's next ready step. So this turns off the opposing hero. Usually you're turning off the boss from attacking you for 2 turns, so it's significant. And then it sits around and play. It's expensive. It costs 2 to strike with, but at some point you're in a raid and you just have tons of mana sitting around, so you will be able to strike with this thing. We run 2 of these. 3 Chain Purges. It's a 2-cost instant ability. Target up to 3 abilities. Destroy the first. And then destroy the second if it costs less than the first. And then repeat that again. So you can destroy like a 3-cost and a 2-cost and a 1-cost ability at the same time. Really powerful in raids if they have multiple ongoing. So our support classes are great at doing being the role that kills all these ongoing abilities, which is one of the strongest things that raids usually do to you. We have 1 Greater Chain Heal. It costs 3. You can target up to 5 heroes and allies and heal 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from them. Usually you'll just end up healing like 5, 4, and 3 and everything else will be full health, but the fact that you can pay 3 and heal 5 and 4 and 3 adds up to a lot. So whatever value you get from this thing is great for a single card for 3 mana. 2 Healing Touches, just pay 3, heal 10. This deck isn't really a main healer, but you can try to pair it up with something else that off heals or maybe side in some heals to make it more of a main healer deck. But with our 3 heals like that slotted in, we can kind of spot heal someone just enough to keep them going, and hopefully prevent them from taking too much more damage because of all our tap abilities. We're more of a control deck. We've got one of these Renewal of Lives. Yeah, this deck's starting to look familiar, isn't it? So it's 4 costs at the start of your turn. You may destroy this item. If you do, each player puts all allies from his graveyard into play. So it reses all the boss's allies back in play, but it also puts all yours and all your teammates' allies back into play. So it's pretty crazy what this thing does. For 4 mana, your opponent gets 1 turn to try and figure out how to not completely lose to it. Especially if you just put their stuff back in play, then tap all their stuff, or it just comes into play exhausted and it gets bounced anyways. So could be potentially super powerful. Moving on to the threats, this is probably my favorite Shaman card for raids. It's so fun. Searing Totem, 2-cost instant. At the start of each turn, Searing Totem deals 1 fire damage to target hero or ally. Since it works at each turn, it works on your turn, each of your teammates' turns, and on the raid boss's turn. This thing, you usually want to place yourself so you go right after the raid boss. And you'll untap and then just play this, and then during each of your friends' turns, you ping 1, 1, 1, 1, then the raid boss ping 1. So this thing probably deals between 3 to 4 damage every turn. It's just that good. And you can use it to single out everything. Like if there's 2 allies with 1 health, kill that one, put 2 damage on that one, and then go ahead and just shoot the rest of the opposing hero. It's really good. We only have 2 of it in this deck, and you can change the numbers a little bit. It is instant, so if you suspect your opponent's going to have an ally that's able to kill it, you could just save it in your hand, and then wait till you're into your opponent's turn and shoot it off. We've got 1 Fire Nova Totem. At the start of your turn, destroy a Fire Nova Totem, and then deal 3 fire damage to all opposing heroes and allies. So the fact that it only does this stuff to opposing, it doesn't sweep your own boards and your teammates' boards, one of the reasons why it's in here. But sometimes you just don't need to sweep the board anymore. Like, yes, we're a control deck, we're doing a lot of damage to allies and controlling it, but having one Fire Nova Totem's fine. If we draw at the right time, we sweep the board, sweet. Otherwise, we maybe have a Searing Totem, which is kind of pinging off guys individually. So it does its job, and otherwise it's just a resource if you don't need it. For Morik, Ferocity 2/2 that draws a card for everyone. So he ends up being a 4 or an 8 or a 12 for 1 by the time your opponent gets rid of it. Those numbers alone make this card a solid slot in any Horde deck. 3 Xarantaurs, he's a 5-drop. Yeah, he has XX equal to every card added together in everyone's hands. So he's usually like a 15 or a 20, some huge stat. He also lets every player draw 2 cards a turn, including the boss. Same with this guy, the boss draws cards. So even though you and your team are getting a lot more out of this, your opponent, the guy playing the boss, oftentimes he's a human, and he's going to have a lot more fun if he gets to draw more cards too, even if you're interrupting them. 3 Legacy of the Hordes. You can bump this up to 4 if you want. It's a 6-cost ongoing ability. All friendly heroes and allies deal double damage, and then they take half damage rounded up. So it's probably just the strongest card in a raid. It's pretty ridiculous. You're going to start one-hitting every boss that comes into play. It'll die like in a round because of how much damage your team can do. And then your team, the healing stops becoming relevant when you've tapped their whole team over and over again, and you heal just a little bit, and then your team doesn't even really take any damage anyways. So this card's crazy good. 1 Grovemender Ash'lon. He's a 6-drop 3/6. He's got min 3. He also has when this ally heals damage, you may draw a card. He's slow and weak, but once he's in play, he has a lot of health, and he can start healing up the board or healing up somebody, and he gets to draw your extra cards. Great card. Utility. We have 4 Wind Shears. Choose one or both, interrupt target ability or exhaust target hero or ally. So this is usually just an interrupt, but sometimes if your opponent forgets to attack first, and he doesn't attack first, in fact all he does is start casting some sweet ability, you just interrupt that and tap his hero. So it's nice to have a reliable 2-cost interrupt. You're going to get some good things with this, and often you'll be grabbing like a board wipe, and so your opponent just never gets to reset. 2 Windshear Totems. This is here because it's an interrupt. Instant, 3-cost, 0/1 air totem. When this card enters play, you may interrupt target ability. Then at the start of your turn, this card deals 1 nature damage to target hero or ally. The fact that it gets to sit and play is just kind of icing on the cake. We're just playing this as a 3-mana interrupt. It's also an ally, so when it goes to the graveyard, we have other cards that let us get certain cards, specifically allies, back. So this is one of the cards that we have the ability to kind of recur. It's like a recurring interrupt. With 2 of these and 2 Wind Shears, that's 6 interrupts. And then 2 more Tremor Shocks. There's 2 more interrupts. So this gives us 8 main deck. 3-cost instant. Your hero deals 1 frost and 1 nature damage to a hero or ally. An ally dealt damage this way can't attack. If a hero is dealt damage this way, you may interrupt an ability. So it's basically pay 3 and either deal 2 damage to an ally and that can't attack, or 2 damage to a hero and interrupt their ability. So again, that's 8 main deck interrupts. Also, hey, some random damage, sure. Thunderstorm. This is also instant. Exhaust all opposing heroes and allies, and then you deal 1 nature damage to each of them. Ready a resource for each character dealt damage this way. So if you can hit 4 people, it will untap all your resources that you use to cast it. If you can hit more than 4, it's like a ritual. Basically, you gain mana from casting it. Again, this works well with our Wavestorm Totem, just bounce their stuff. Or if you just need to tap their team, deal a little bit of damage, you can untap, maybe draw some cards. You can do this on your opponent's turn. So he swings, and you just, in response to your declaring an attack, Thunderstorm their board, tap everything, untap, maybe draw some cards, or just hold open a counterspell. You truly are a control deck. Because we have 4 Squall Totems, 2 Thunderstorms, so that's 6 ways to tap their board, and then 3 more Eye of the Storm, so that's 9 ways that we have that we might be able to tap their board. Plus 2 more Blackout Truncheons, that's like 11 ways to do that effect, so you get the deal, we're getting there. Hey, plus 4 more from Wind Shear, if you count that one. 2 Ancestral Recovery, it's a 3-drop, put up to 2 target allies from your graveyard into your hand. So this is like a weird draw to. It only draws allies, and it only draws them from your graveyard, but specifically lets us draw totems, because those are allies. We can draw, if there's like 2 of the same totem, we can even draw 2 of the same if we want. It lets Fire Nova, which it always kills itself, always comes back. It gives you a lot of flexibility there. As a 2-of, you won't be sick to see it. Just be like, oh sure, it'll grab back my dead Morik and maybe a totem, or just grab a couple totems. Pretty cool little card. Totemic Recovery, it's a 4-cost. Put an air, earth, fire, and a water totem from your graveyard into play. This thing's real bad sometimes, but sometimes it's also awesome. It's like a 4-cost draw and play up to 3 or 4 cards from your graveyard. We have air here. We've got water. We've got fire. We don't have any earth totems because most of those are kind of doo-doo, so we don't play that. But we do have the ability to 2 or 3 for 1 off this one card, but the tempo we get from putting them into play is where it's significant. Because we can't really save the Squall Totem. It just puts it right into play. But at least you can just put a Squall Totem into play, tap their board, put the Wavestorm Totem into play, and then maybe put a Searing Totem into play. And that's really powerful for a 4-drop play. It's a 1-up, so hey, whenever it's bad, just resource it or do something else with it. That's the beauty of this game. Astral Recall. Just another 1-of. It's super slow but great. Remove this ability from the game. Put up to 1 ability, ally, and an equipment from your graveyard into your hand. Probably not going to hit equipment that often, but it's at least a solid draw 2. And you can get an ability. You can get double totems with it because totems count as an ability and an ally. So you could just grab like 1 Squall Totem as the ability, 1 Wavestorm Totem as the ally. So it's very selective about what we get to grab. We could also grab back heals or ongoing removal or some interrupt, or well, at least 1 interrupt if we need. And this thing, the fact that it's an ally means we can grab it and then another copy of itself, or we could grab Wind Shear as the ally and then, well, the other Wind Shear as the ability. It's called Windshear Totem. It's a confusing name. So that's our utility. It's most of our draw there. Resources. 3 of this one. This is whenever an opposing ally is destroyed, put a counter, and then you can pay 3, remove 3 counters, draw 3 cards. It's kind of slow, but it's really powerful to be able to draw 3 from a quest. You guys know this one. Pay 1, draw 1, and you can't interact usually, so it's just pay 1, draw 1 at any time. Here's one you don't see very often. Call to Arms, Eye the Storm. Pay 3 to complete. Has to be on your turn. Draw a card, and target hero or ally can't ready during its controller's next ready step. You may add an honor counter to a battleground you control. This is basically a spell for us that lets us draw a card and pump up Eye the Storm. We can just keep certain permanents locked down. It's a 2-of. It's kind of easily replaceable since we have so many good cards that do the same effect, but redundancy is nice when you're trying to establish one main role for a deck. 1, Rise and Be Recognized. Just reliable, pay 4, draw 2. And then Eye the Storm. This thing's going to sit and play and continually tap down our opponent's threats whenever we need it to. Let's go over the sideboard. We got 1 Ancestral Purge. So we can destroy target ability if it's not attached to a friendly card. Well, yes, destroy target ability that's not attached to a friendly card. Got it. So Chain Purge will hit the things that are attached to friendly. This is going to hit anything else. And then it also deals 1 damage to all opposing heroes and allies. So we can side this in if we want more sweepers, because there's almost always raid decks have tokens. It's very common. 1 more Chain Purge for all the ongoing abilities. 2 more Wind Shears. It's nice to have extra interrupts. And 2 more Tremor Shocks, because it's nice to have extra interrupts. And then an Earth Shock. It's another interrupt. It just deals 4. It's a little different. We also ran out of these. Like we're maxed out on these, so we can slot in up to 5 more interrupts if we need to fulfill that role. 1 more Renewal of Life. Another Healing Touch. And 1 more Zalan Ragewind. Actually, he's the only one. They don't have any. So this is like our equipment removal if we don't have one in any other format. I don't think Shamans really have much equipment removal, so this is kind of like our 1-of chance to get that. This is the support Totem Shaman. I hope you give it a try. It's got the same core allies, the same core group of allies here. You can kind of see my deck building might get a little stale, but these are just the strongest, so I try to include the strongest when I can. If you want to make the deck more consistent, just go up to 4 of these. It's great. It's a great combo in the deck, but sometimes it's just dead in your hand. So I'm kind of fine running it as a 2-of, but it's easy to tweak and make the deck a little more reactive and just add these instead of proactive with all these threats. Also, the hero flip. The hero's name is Shalu Stormshatter. He's a 3-cost flip. Flip him. Destroy target ability that's not attached to a friendly hero or ally. So it's just a reliable purge, basically. It doesn't hit anything attached to friendlies, but you've got 3 Chain Purges to hit those. So this is a nice, reliable way that you never have to worry about if it's on your hero or not. You just destroy whatever they have in play. It's a fun deck. Hope you enjoy it.